Hello, Mr. Patterson. Yes, I've got the 1980s online too for you. Yes, they said they'd like their conspiracy theories back. Hi, I'm Andrea and I'm reading all the Marilyn Monroe books, the good, the bad and the downright bizarre, so you don't have to. And today we're going to talk about The Last Days of Marilyn Monroe by James Patterson. Now, I like James Patterson as a writer. I like reading his novels. I've also read this book, The Last Days of John Lennon, now, which he also wrote. Now, normally I would say a writer being very easy to read is not a bad thing, but when it comes to this book, it is, because people who aren't fans, big fans, are going to pick this up and believe every single word of it, whereas it's not really true, most of it, actually. So it starts the same way as the John Lennon book, which I say I did love, but I don't know a lot about John Lennon, so I don't know if a lot of it's true. Maybe a John Lennon fan can let me know. But what I would say with this book is it is very easy to read. It's written the same way. Starts off with the night of her death, goes back and talks about her life, and then we end up back at the night of her death. So let's start with it. What is wrong with this book? Well, first of all, he says Mrs. Murray was doing the washing in the laundry. There was no laundry at Marilyn's house. She did not own a washer or a dryer. We know this because her estate lists everything that was in the house, that was purchased for the house, and that isn't one of them. Now, I will make another video about this later because the children of the people who bought the house after Marilyn died said there was a washer dryer in the garage, but we now know there wasn't. Now, that's fine. Let's go on to the bit about her life. Basically, a very basic overview of her life, nothing in depth, nothing revelatory. He does have the boys at school calling her the hubba hubba girl, which I've never heard before. The girl, yes, but the hubba hubba girl, no. So that was a bit annoying. And then at the end, well, 1956, when she signed her contract with Fox that gave her the right to do only 4 films over 7 years and 1 independent production per year, or production for another studio, he claimed she was getting $400,000 per film. It wasn't, it was $100,000, which is a hell of a difference even then. So there's that. Now, this is just down to whether or not you believe the conspiracy theories or not with the rest of it. He does quote Robert Slater as a source. Robert Slater has been completely debunked. Now, he doesn't say that they were married at all at any point, but he does say they were friends from the late 40s until her death. This is not true. His telephone number is not in any of her 1962 phone books. They are owned by a collector named, well, some of them are owned by a collector named Scott Faulkner, and he's actually proved that by going through them and showing us them. What else? There was no water by the bed. Yes, there was. It really is just the usual. One of the most annoying things from the book is he refers as Sergeant Jack Clemens as a detective, a homicide detective. Jack Clemens was never a homicide detective. He was acting watch commander the night Marilyn died. So it wasn't normally his job to sit there and answer the phone, but on that night he did. He was a uniformed sergeant, not a homicide sergeant. Now, when Sergeant Byron came in and took over, he was a homicide detective, and he is always, in all the books I've read, been referred to as a detective sergeant. However, Clemens has always only ever been referred to as Sergeant Clemens. He was a uniformed officer, not a homicide detective. Now, I'm not doubting that he may well have seen scenes like Marilyn's death before and thought that this one looks a bit odd. I have my own theory as to why it looked as staged as it did, because it did, and I will admit that, and I can, if you want, make a video about that. But this book is just... it says it's fully researched. It's not. It's bits of information from other books, from other researchers. It's just so much stuff that has been debunked over the years. If it wasn't the fact that he has it with Kennedys from early 50s onwards, it might have been all right. If he just said they'd had one night together, it would have been all right. But there is no evidence of anything further. There is no evidence that he had anybody had anything to do with her death, except for her. And I'm talking hard, concrete evidence that would stand up in court. There isn't any. I know that people say, well, she was so happy she got this new brilliant contract with 20th Century Fox. Believe me, she did not, and I will make a video about that if you want to hear about what that contract to complete Something's Got to Give actually entailed. But it wasn't a good contract. It did nothing for her. So I gave this book 1 star because I don't like leaving no stars on a book when I've reviewed it. And that's only because I find it was easy to read, because Patterson is a good writer and his stuff is easy to read. There's nothing in here of interest. There's nothing new at all. If you want to add it to your collection, you certainly can. For me, I know if there's another pandemic and there's a toilet roll shortage, I know what book I'll be reaching for first to use as loo roll.